All right, let's go. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Julie's Crochet World video. This is where we are doing just basic techniques. I'm going to go over and review the single crochet, the double crochet, and the half double crochet so that we have some basic techniques. And then I will have subsequent videos just to cover each of the sections of crochet that I have been learning. And now I just want to share with you my approach to how I think about and work these techniques. I just want to show you right now, these are some basic crochet hooks, and this is what I usually use. These are just aluminum metal hooks, nothing really fancy about them. In fact, although there are some high-end versions and some nice brand names I know of, that's not these. These are very basic, I'm sure highly inexpensive hooks that I purchased when I first started, and through trying a bunch of other options, I actually prefer these. All hooks look the same. We know what we're talking about. Even back to historically, the original ones, carved out of bone or wood, look exactly like this. The hook part doesn't really change. In the mid-20th century, enamel was really, really popular. I actually have my grandmother's enamel hook that she used for decades. She was a home ec teacher I think she got it in the 50s or 60s. And so that's really great. But most hooks, some of the older ones, the only thing they might not have is this little finger pad, which is very handy. It's good for your hand. It's comfortable for me to hold my thumb or my finger here. And then there's this other type of hook, and there's all kinds of variations that have a handle here. Some of them are quite bulbous, and the intention is that you will have an ergonomic support. That is, it will reduce your hand strain or be more comfortable for you. However, they are not for me. This type of hook I found is not really for me because it is counter to how I usually hold my hook and work my stitches. So I find with these ones with the handles, it has me holding the handle far further back, so I'm using a lot more wrist movement, and also in such a way that it's not comfortable, and I find that my hand gets sore after just an hour or two of trying to work with this kind of hook. Which is just a signal that this is actually giving me hand strain. So these designs are not for me. I can work with them, but not nearly as happily as I am with just this very basic, no-nonsense hook. So hooks are given and talked about here, in terms of the diameter. That is how thick they are. So here is a 4mm hook, here is a 6mm hook, here's an 8mm hook. You can see obviously the differences that go there. And they range all the way down from, there's a 1 is very, very tiny, and people use 10 and 12 with very bulky yarns, for instance, or for whatever you want. I've seen great big huge ones. There is a US lettering system of like F and J and G or H, whatever, to identify your hook, but all of those letters just correspond to the size. So I'm just happier just calling it by the millimeter size that it actually is. For this video, I'm just going to use my 6mm hook, and that is because I'm going to be working with a 4 worsted weight yarn. This is just, I think, like a Red Heart Super Saver, but I can't be sure. It is, I think, the second skein I ever bought. This is just yarn I have left over, and it's from a time when I didn't even know to pay attention to my yarn. I had no clue. It was, I got it at Walmart, and it was probably about $5 Canadian for the skein. It's perfectly fine, and hopefully because of the color, it'll be easy enough to see the stitches as I work. When you buy your yarn, there's often a recommendation for the hook size that works well. Usually with a worsted weight, you're going to get somewhere recommending about a 5mm hook. I have that in another project right now, so I'm going to use my 6mm hook. It's going to be fine. So to begin with, I've just prepared a little strip here just so I have some stitches to work with. What I want to show you before we start is just to get familiar with, I already have rows put in here. You can see the top of the stitches that I've prepared. This is what it looks like, where every V is a stitch through here. And when I pull up, you can see there are 2 loops right here, we call the one furthest away is called the back loop, and then the one closest to you is the front loop to what you're working. So when you have here, this is what you should expect to be picking up for the most part. There's all kinds of variations. We might be working with one loop or the other, front post, all kinds of ways you can vary it. But in general, most commonly, when you are coming in to do your crochet or your stitch, you are targeting right here, this space right here that gets you your 2 hooks from your stitch. So over here you can see this is my stitch, but when I come in, I'm going to be going in right here into the spot. This is where I'm aiming. So when I come here, we're going to start now. I want to show you to start with the single crochet. Single crochet is a straightforward. What we're trying to do is we're taking our very long yarn that is all one piece of string, and we're going to twist it and knot it and combine it in such a way with our fabric so that we can continue to bind it in and work it together. So to do this, whenever you're doing any kind of stitch like that, at some point you're going to insert your hook into your project and yarn over and pull that loop back out. I call this pulling a loop. So that when I yarn over again and bring it through both of those, through 2, I completed a single crochet. So again, what we're doing is we're going to insert our hook, yarn over and pull that through. We've pulled a loop. We have our pulled loop. We have our original loop from our project. And to combine those, we're going to yarn over and pull through both loops. Now, going through 2 loops, when we come through, insert, we're going to pull a loop, pull a loop, and then yarn over through 2. This pulling through 2, yarning over through 2 is the most common way to be working your stitches. And it's a big reason why there is a single crochet and a double crochet and a triple crochet. The single crochet is kind of the core, and you add your pull through 2s all the way up so that you can increase the size of your stitch and the amount of yarn used in each stitch. Even in Tunisian crochet, when you're doing your return pass, you will be most commonly yarning over, working in 2s at a time, and as you work your way across your return pass. So a few more single crochets so we can get really familiar with it. We want to insert our hook, so we're going to pull a loop and then yarn over through 2. We're going to pull a loop and then yarn over through 2. And that is your basic single crochet. You can see I have 2 loops here on this is my remaining piece for my work. So when I pull a loop, there's my loop, there's my now original loop all the way. So very, very straightforward. Now I would like to show you a double crochet. And I just want to chain one. I just want to be a little bit higher in my work so I can show you what a double crochet looks like. For the double crochet, you are going to, as I said or mentioned earlier, you want to make your stitch taller. You're going to include more yarn in a double crochet. So in order to achieve that, you want to yarn over first. We're going to yarn over so that when we insert our hook, we are creating an additional loop. I'm going to pull my loop. So now I have 3 loops on my hook. I have my pulled loop, I have my yarn over loop, and I have my original loop. So when I yarn over through 2, I still have 2 left on my hook that I can work. I can yarn over through 2 again. And now this stitch, our double crochet, is twice the height of our single crochet. We had that core pull through 2, and we've added an additional 1, kind of like a building block. Let's do this a few more times just to get really familiar with it. We want to yarn over first and insert our hook so we can pull a loop. From the 3 left on our hook now, we can yarn over through 2, yarn over through 2. Again, yarn over, pull a loop, yarn over through 2, yarn over through 2. And as we continue on, you can see that there is a greater length and more yarn involved, a twisting kind of look to the double crochet. So one last time, yarn over, pull a loop, yarn over through 2, yarn over through 2. Okay, so what I want to show you here now then is I have a swatch that I prepared that is 10 stitches across and 5 rows of single crochet. It's quite dense. Let me just move this out of the way. Here's my single crochet. I also have another swatch that is also 10 stitches across and 5 rows deep. These are, oh look, it's getting all banged up. These are double crochet. So this is single crochet and this is double crochet. And you can see the difference between them. Same yarn, same hook size, same number of stitches, same number of rows. I can show you right now that the stitches, the number of stitches across does not impact the width, right? Our width is effectively the same with the stitches that we have. What has changed is the overall height. This swatch of single crochets is about half the size of our double crochets. That's because we have more yarn in the stitch, and that extra round of yarn over, pulling through two, gives us a whole additional stack, kind of like making it a second story house versus a single story house. Now, this is single crochet. We have double crochet that's double the height. How about right in the middle? These are 10 stitches, 5 rows of half double crochets. And as you would expect, it is taller than the single, shorter than the double. So now I'm going to show you how to do this half double crochet. All right, I'm going to pull this back here so that I can just keep working with the same stitches. I don't have to turn things. And we'll do the half double crochet. So kind of the way that those swatches implied, a half double crochet is kind of in between. It is, yeah, kind of in between a single crochet and a double crochet. And to begin with, you're going to start exactly like you're doing a double crochet. You want to add extra yarn into that stitch, so you're going to yarn over. So you're going to create a loop. We're going to insert and pull our loop as we normally did. So far, exactly like the double crochet. However, instead of yarning over to pull through two and doing that in 2 steps, we're actually just going to yarn over and we're going to pull through all 3. We're going to complete the stitch in just 1 yarn over and pull through. Let's do that again a couple more times, right? So we're going to yarn over first, insert our hook, pull a loop, yarn over through all. Yarn over, pull a loop, yarn over through all. Again, yarn over, pull a loop, we're going to yarn over through all. One thing I want to show you is when I'm making this stitch, I'm going to start, I'll get this set up to do our half double crochet. And I'm going to extend it right now so you can really see. The shape of the tension between the hook and my project, that tension creates a teardrop shaped space. That's where I'm going to move my hook. So if my hook is kind of pointing up or sideways, it's not going to go through. It has difficulty going through. But if I turn it, now it's going to fit and slide right out. Don't worry, I can pick it up again. I meant to do that. And the point here is that this hook is what is bringing, allowing this new piece of yarn to be moved and pulled, but it's not going to come through like this. That's why you see me doing a lot of turning with my hook when I'm doing my stitches. And again, everyone's different, but I tend to not do a lot of wrist movement. I work it a lot by sliding the hook and by twisting the hook. And I find that it's always easier. I can work for hours without feeling any strain on that. But for ease of getting it to go through, when I yarn over to pull through all, my hook's going to take that new yarn piece, but because of the shape, this is just going to slide through all of these threads, the loops that I had prepared. And when you look at it, here is the 3 loops that I just slid through. There's 1 more slice of yarn over what a single crochet would have. That's why it's just that little bit bigger. One last time for a half double crochet, yarn over, pull a loop, yarn over, pull through all. So now having shown you those 3 stitches, and you can just continue to work them along if you were whatever fabric you're making. I would be able to just continue. You get into really comfortable to be able to, look at that, a nice little rhythm, and find as you work across it how well you end up with a really beautiful stitch. Half double crochet is one of my favorite stitches as far as basic stitches. I like the way it lies together, and it looks, and it's a little more fun, I find, to work. Now the other thing I want to show you, now that we've reviewed that, is this here. So I had previously, actually I'll start here, just to remind you, I had 3 swatches that all had 10 stitches and 5 rows of a single crochet, a double or half double crochet, and a double crochet to show you how the stitches impact the height of the height of your fabric, but not the width. Now similarly, I have the same thing. I have 3 swatches. These all have the same fabric or the same yarn. They all used a half double crochet, also 10 stitches, also 5 rows, but when I work them, you'll see they have about the same height. There's not a hugely significant difference in the height. There's a little bit, but not huge. Where the difference comes in is in the, let's see if I can move this so I can kind of get most of it in here. Where the difference comes in is kind of in the width. Now, it's not quite as distinct as the difference between, say, the single and the double crochet as far as height, because there's a significant amount more yarn per stitch that's been increased in that. But for this purposes, you can definitely see how this here was made with a 4mm hook. This middle swatch was made with the 6mm hook. This one here is made with an 8mm. So the 6mm is the only one that's kind of within the recommended hook recommendations, but you can use any hook you want with any yarn you want. The recommendation is just there for ease of working. For example, you may find that if you were using, I have this 4mm hook, and for instance, if I was working a worsted weight yarn, I don't know if you can see that, but it just kind of fits, which means if I'm doing a lot of work, or if I'm doing like popcorn stitches where I have a number of loops on my hook, if the yarn's kind of thicker or fuzzier, I may have trouble controlling the yarn as I work with it and may have a tendency to slip off. The other thing that may happen is when you're coming around, because it doesn't quite fit, it could be that when you go to, say, pull through a loop or whatever you're doing, I'm not going to be able to show you now because this yarn's twisted a little better, but it may not grab the whole piece. This is when you would get splitting, where you've gone to go through, but instead it's split because it's a little bit too small to hook the whole piece of yarn. So if you're working on a project and you're finding your yarn is splitting a lot, you may want to consider increasing your hook size to kind of resolve some of those problems. Oops, put that down. So here, this is the second, same width. If we have the large, this is much larger than would be recommended. That's totally fine. If I wanted to use this, you know, clunkier kind of, even a 10 or something, and I pulled it out and I wanted to use it with my lace weight yarn, like a 1. Now, granted, there's probably going to be a lot of tears, and I would probably really regret it. But if it worked for me and it did get me the project outcome that I wanted, and I was really happy with my work, then I can decide to do that. There's nothing wrong with it. You should pick whatever works to get you what you want in your design. Everything here is a tool. The stitches you choose, the tools you use, how you combine them, all your yarn, these are all ways for you to create what it is that you really want, whatever excites you. So there are no limits. There is no right or wrong. Absolutely go for what you want. So what you really want to see, besides, because it works width-wise, what goes on here in the 4mm hook one, it's a much denser fabric. The stitches are closer together and more tightly bound. So when I get to this, these are half double crochets with the 6, there's a little more movement in the fling. This is it's more like a washcloth, a little less drape. Now here, when I get to the 8mm size, you can see that there is more space between the threads in my stitches, and there's also a little more drape. This fabric moves a lot more because, of course, there is more space inside to allow that movement. So it's all on your choices on what you want. Maybe you are going to work with a yarn that is not quite meeting the gauge for the project that you're on. You don't have the same yarn they have, and it's almost but not quite. Well, you might want to increase your hook so that you have a slightly bigger final product. You may want better drape, increase your hook size. You may want it to be a little bit tighter than that. Say you're going to make you're almost a medium, small medium, and the yarn you have, you would like it to have not be as open for the project that you're making. Well, maybe you want to make the medium but use a slightly smaller hook size for your yarn. That's what I want you to know from this. That's the purpose here. I really want you to know kind of how all the components are so that you can make the variations you want. You can adjust. You can expand your creativity and really be able to get what you want in a project and in whatever you're working, because that's what excites us. So that is the end of this particular video. We started with a quick little howdy doody to our hooks, but mostly I wanted to show you how to do the single crochet, the half double crochet, and the double crochet. If you have mastered these 3 stitches, you are prepared and should be able to accomplish pretty much 70–80% of all the kinds of stitch work that is out there in the crochet world. These really are our foundation chains or foundation stitches in order to build up all of the variety and the just beautiful work that's out there. So once you have these, you are well on your way. Don't be intimidated. It is much more straightforward once you get going on it. I hope you had a great time. Our next video is coming up. I will be discussing how to prepare your foundation chain and talking about turning chains and those kinds of adjustments. I just didn't want these videos to be overly long, so I'm trying to keep it down and do them in segments. And coming up also will be a short video on doing the moss stitch and a project that I have working on that I'm really happy with this really fantastic, easy stitch prepare. Anyone can do it. So talk to you soon. Bye.